believe in getting things done. You need to be able to make the road smooth for your staff to travel on.
How much time do you think should be dedicated to planning?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So go slow to go fast.
Okay, all right.
It's a great mindset to have.
What is it like working with so many iconic brands? Paul Sheffield is VP of Infrastructure Transformation over at Morgan Street Holdings, the main supply chain provider for McDonald's across Europe. Such an interesting company.
Every time you hit a roadblock or a problem, there's an opportunity to learn. You learn from those more than you learn from your successes. Be patient, lead with empathy.
Such good advice.
Another thing I learned about leadership is
that's going to make you successful anywhere you go.
yeah, be unashamedly, unapologetically enthusiastic and infect your staff with that enthusiasm.
What's been your biggest source of inspiration over the years, and what's a challenging time that it helped get you through?
The biggest source of inspiration I have is
Welcome back to CEO Tech Live. I'm Ben Fanning, your host. This episode is brought to you by Hexaware. I've got a treat coming your way today with Paul Sheffield, who is VP of Infrastructure Transformation over at Morgan Street Holdings. Interesting organization. They're the main supply chain provider for McDonald's across Europe, and they actually own the brand and make the Stanley Cup, if you're familiar with that. Really incredible brand. And they also are McDonald's, they're in charge of McDonald's sourcing across North America. Such an interesting company doing big things. Paul, welcome to CEO Tech Live.
nice to meet you.
So let's kick this off. Tell me a little bit about your leadership philosophy.
Well, I think A, I believe in servant leadership, and B, I believe in getting things done. I generally believe that I am only basking in the reflected glory of my team, and they do the work. I'm just driving them in the right direction, giving them pointers, tips, and guidance. That's really important for me, that I just give them everything that they need to get the work done. And then, I really hate pointless process and bureaucracy that's unnecessary, and that builds up in time over companies. So sometimes you have to cut through that. There's a word I'd use if we weren't on a slightly more sanitized podcast, cut through that. But I think you need to be able to make the road smooth for your staff to travel on, and sometimes that means identifying blockages that are caused by processes or that are maybe outdated.
It's such good advice. Like, the word that comes to mind to me is execution. Yeah. You can have all the philosophy, all the leadership strategies, but the team's not getting the work done and taking care of it.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. So what do you say to leaders who are like, yeah, we can execute, but what about taking a step back and prioritizing and developing a plan? And I mean, in the IT world, planning is important, of course.
100%.
But where do, like how much time do you think should be dedicated to execution, getting it done, versus planning things?
So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's a very obvious statement. Maybe overused, but it's true to this day. I genuinely think that you need to spend a reasonable amount of time, probably a third of your overall time, doing that planning work. If you put in the right amount of planning work, then you'll actually execute faster at the back end. So go slow to go fast.
Nice. Okay. All right.
That's kind of how I see it. So when I say about getting it done, I mean the planning phase as well. You need to have an execution mindset in that planning phase. You've got to gather the data. You've got to understand the requirements from your stakeholders. You've got to build that plan out, get that done in the time frame allotted, and do it as detailed and accurate as possible.
All right. So on a little bit of a different note, what is it like working with so many iconic brands? No pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I've come, my history, I was in banking for 17 years, worked at Barclays Capital Investment Bank when 2008 went down and we bought Lehman Brothers, so I went through a lot of hell there, escaped from the banking industry, became less prestigious after that date, I think. I moved to Nike, worked there for about 4 or 5 years, running Windows platforms. So I've been for iconic brands, Marks and Spencer's in the UK, and at KPMG, at the international firm, around tech ops before I came here. Wow. So brand-wise, I've always been in big companies, but honestly, McDonald's and Starbucks and Stanley 1913, they're pretty iconic. You don't get much bigger than McDonald's. So yeah, it's a little terrifying sometimes that we get something wrong and it impacts our customer. But
yeah, because that brand's worth a lot in the marketplace.
It is.
Yeah, it represents a lot.
McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Nike. Those are the three top brands in the world.
So do you just have you just gravitated towards big brands in your career, or?
I've always worked for big companies. I think the smallest company I've worked for, I did some consultancy back a long time ago where we worked for small companies, but typically I've worked in companies in excess of like 10,000 people and, multi-million dollars, sometimes usually billion-dollar companies. So yeah, it's just the kind of IT I've got used to.
So when's the time you had an unexpected twist or failure in your career, and how did it lead to your success or growth on down the road?
So this was early in my career. I was working as a kind of internet banking engineer for the Woolwich Building Society, since acquired by Barclays. And we had our own data center. I was doing a cable sort of survey and accidentally unplugged the internet connection. Took down the internet bank, which at the time, which ran about 2,000 million users. One plug, million users, no access to the internet bank. I'm still doing my cable survey. My boss phones me on my phone. Are you down in the data center? Yeah, what's? The internet bank's down. Have you done something? No. So yeah, that taught me a lot about resilience, and and it's something I went up to the office and I was very much, that was an accident. I'm really sorry about that. Please don't fire me. And another thing I learned about leadership is forgiveness, about just silly mistakes that happen. You need to accept that. And it was only out for like 10 minutes, so it wasn't the end of the world. In today's world, it would be, but back then it was a little bit more relaxed. But I think that taught me leadership, forgiveness, and then about resilience and the need for it inside your IT infrastructure. You definitely need to have a secondary connection that will fail over automatically. Right.
That's a great lesson to learn too. Yeah. It's incredible to think about all of that can be taken down with just unplugging. So have the secondary.
It wasn't even properly unplugged. It was just slightly loose.
Oh, ooh. So thinking back even further in the archive, what was your first job and how does it still continue to inform your leadership today?
So first job was working in desktop support, crawling around under people's desks in a call center. Now, what I learned is you want to be the same with everybody in the organization from the top to the bottom. You want to give as much respect to the cleaner or the custodian, security guard, as you do to the managing director, CEO, because you treat people how you want to be treated. And that, I think, flows through to how I try to be a leader. I don't want my staff, the people who work in my teams, to feel that I'm an unapproachable sort of ivory tower guy. They need to be able to come up to me and tell me problems from the floor. So, I treat them with exactly the same respect I expect to be given, and it seems to work.
Yeah, it's so important for leaders to think about that proactively. I feel like sometimes leaders are surprised that people don't willingly show up and just fall on their sword when they make a mistake. But yeah, there's this perception of the executives being in the ivory tower on the stuff. What does your conversation go like when they start day one and you're trying to build this rapport in this way?
I typically have, when anybody starts in the team, I say, look, do you want me, particularly, they're a few levels below me, I'm open to them coming and having like a 15-minute chat. And I try to run sort of like step level meetings and all this stuff and group meetings so that the smaller groups and people can just have like meaningful conversations off the record. Unless they want something done about it, they can just raise concerns and I'll keep it in my head. So when someone starts, I offer their manager, do you want to get 15 minutes on my calendar? I'll have a chat with them, just say welcome to the company. I'm there if you need me. You can chat with me on Teams or or send me an email anytime. I am there. Okay. Feel free to go through your manager and copy them in, but just know that you can always approach me as well.
Yeah, I like that from the standpoint of the Stephen Covey quote of beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And on day one, if you set it up that way, you're just going to put the relationship on a much different trajectory that you're not going to have to overcome later. Now, I know that you live in the Netherlands,
I do.
correct? Grew up in England, you speak different Portuguese, speak different languages.
Portuguese, Dutch, and English. Married to a Brazilian woman. So
Yeah, so you're covering a lot of cultures.
a little bit.
What are some of the keys to success in operating in different cultures? And also I think about it from your standpoint, because you're representing McDonald's supply chain. It's one brand,
Yep.
but you've got different cultures and they operate differently in each location.
It's very true, and Europe's very different to Asia. Both are different to the Americas, and North and South America are very different as well. I'll take you back to the forgiveness piece. Understanding that different cultures have different cultural norms and different ways of expressing themselves. Understanding that English as a second language typically relies on the way the person's primary language is spoken. So, for example, the Dutch are very, very direct. They would not, no, but this was terrible, is a typical comment. This was terrible. It shouldn't have been done this way. Why have you done that? And that you would never put that to an American or an English person.
Right. We would soften it a little more.
Round it off. But they would just say it. They would just call it as it is. And that is a cultural norm because their language, when they speak it, is very direct. There is no soft floweriness to it. Portuguese is the same. They don't ask you, can you please get me the butter or something? Let's say, give me butter. It would be the equivalent. So if you understand fundamentally at the language level, the construct forms the way they think, then you can start to see the cultural differences. Nike, we had, I think, in the office, 16 different people, from different countries.
Wow.
And cultures. So you learn to find a common way of working and getting on. And that's really important to find that and find a culture for your company. Yeah, one that's common across there. The values set that, obviously. I know diversity, equity, and inclusion is somewhat of an interesting topic nowadays, but understanding that you've got all these different cultures in a company, trying to give them a common goal and a common set of values to work towards that they all subscribe to helps, so that they don't go back to their cultural norms. They focus on the company's cultural norms.
There's got to be some sort of unifying thing. It could be the company, it could be the culture, it could be the leader, but
Absolutely.
something to get everybody, because it's hard to bring everybody together, even if you're in the same culture, much less all these different perceptions. And I suspect it's a real competitive edge to be able to have people with so many differences and be able to get them aligned.
And also to understand the markets your company is operating in. You alluded to it earlier. If you're operating in Europe or in Portugal or in Portugal versus Germany, let's say, very different cultural approach to things.
Of course,
And if you've got people on the ground who understand that, they can engage with your customers better. And we don't just have McDonald's as a customer. We have a lot of smaller companies that we service in these countries. Some larger that are kind of multinational but not global. And having that local market knowledge rather than just focusing on one global customer is a necessity, even at an IT level, because we're supporting the business. And that's the thing that I try to drum into my teams. Understand that everything we do is not about technical perfection. It's about supporting the business's aspirations and desires, and ultimately to generate money. So,
a lot of brands, a lot of markets. There's a lot of complexity there.
Yeah.
How do you and your team deal with work-life balance from that standpoint?
I've heard about this white.
I'm sure you're an expert at this point.
No, I'll for me personally, I work semi-US hours. I get up later in the morning and I work sort of late afternoon to early evening, let's say, most days. It's good because I get to go to the gym in the morning. A lot of the team work remotely. We don't have, in Europe, a return to the office mandate at all, but we like people, if they're close to an office, to be in the office a couple of days a week, just to build the teams. I know this is a hot topic and there's a potential for struggle with new hires and people fresh out of college. How do you bring that cultural, the company
Because
culture?
they want mentorship. They want to learn from the people that have been there.
Yeah.
And the people that have been there a long time may want more flexibility on their location. So
They do. And who's, when you work from home, who's got a home office? Well, people who are my age have a home office.
right.
Maybe.
They have multiple bedrooms
Some
and things like that.
21-year-old who's fresh out of university is unlikely to have. They're probably going to be working out of their bedroom at home. So it's a bit of a different experience. But I think
Interesting.
the reality of it is that building that company culture and understanding the people on the team is key.
So really fine-tuning your leadership style and approach on an individual basis
Exactly.
to what you can do.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest source of inspiration over the years, and what's a challenging time that it helped get you through?
So, from a work perspective, the biggest source of inspiration I have is the leaders that I've worked for. I've been very lucky in my career. I just came from KPMG. I had a fantastic leader there, a guy called Richard Skolton. I'm going to give these guys a shout out if you don't mind.
Sure.
He was fantastic. He taught me a lot about the kind of scale it takes to support operations across 250,000 users in 140 countries. So,
and what is it?
it's
What's the key?
It's just keeping a smile on your face and keeping going, honestly. And fortunately, I don't have much hair to tear out. And then my leader at Nike, Mike Wittig, he's since gone on to a couple of other companies, but he's fantastic. Taught me a lot about the force of personality, the ability to be unashamedly, unapologetically sort of enthusiastic about a topic, and multiple topics, and infect your staff with that enthusiasm. And I am
good
nowhere
kind of
near
contagious.
as good as he is. Yes, a good kind of contagious, not like COVID. But yeah, so that kind of inspiration stays with me. You know, Richard was a stolid operational guy, and he taught me a lot about internal resilience. And that's great when the going gets tough, when things become hard. Layoffs can be hard. The industry is going through some challenging times at the moment. So you've got to really be resilient. But at the same time, encouraging enthusiasm and building a desire to deliver, that's priceless. So those are the two that inspire me.
What's it been like working with Hexaware?
It's been a breath of fresh air, honestly. And I'm not just doing that because we're here at this lovely location and I'm having this fun conversation with you, but they've come in and they've been, one of the reasons we selected them was they had an automation first mindset. They really were thinking, okay, we don't want to just put in loads of people and run your operations and do your support. We want to put in a small team of people and focus on automating the common tasks and building the technology capabilities you have. And then the innovation mindset that they have is great. I love what they're doing with Gen AI. Some of the starter kits they have are really useful in getting us as a company started with Gen AI. Looking at they use OpenAI to internally so that we don't have to use ChatGPT and go send our data externally, so we can keep that privacy concern. So it's been really great, and they've been super enthusiastic about us. They do treat us like we're their only customer, which is it's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, that's going to make you successful anywhere you go. You can maintain that.
Yeah, and I hope it continues. We've been on this journey now for about a year, so far it's continued to flow through.
What's your parting thought for our listeners at CEO Tech Live?
So I'm assuming the audience is kind of at my level, or aspires to be at my level or above my level even. And I think the key thing is just to keep going. Okay, every time you hit a roadblock or a perceived failure or a problem, it's an opportunity to learn. Okay, you learn from those more than you learn from your successes. So just keep going and be patient, be kind, and lead with empathy.
Thanks for coming on CEO Tech Live, Paul.
Thanks.